And I have received some resistance. I remember saying, well, the first thing I did was to cut right back on sugar, because I happen to know from a professor of oncology that sugar takes in 7 times more in cancerous cells than normal cells do. So the first thing we need to do is to reduce the amount of sugar, because otherwise we're just feeding our cancers. So when I said that to him, I said, I've cut right back on sugar. He said, oh, that won't make any difference.
Are you curious about discovering ways of making your life better? Then welcome to my podcast. I'm Bob Nickman, and this is The Exploding Human. Listen in while I talk with all kinds of people in the fields of personal growth, health and healing, alternative therapies, psychology, spirituality, environment, and the future. I'm looking for those answers that make life better for everyone. You'll meet cutting-edge practitioners, doctors, artists, filmmakers, business people, and those who have overcome challenges. The brave, the curious, anyone who is out there helping us humans to explore, expand, and explode.
Hey, welcome to The Exploding Human. My name is Bob Nickman. Today we journey to the UK to talk with Brian Holley. Brian is the author of a new book called What My Doctors Didn't Tell Me About Cancer, What You Can Do to Support and Enhance Your Cancer Treatment. Brian discovered he had cancer in 2009 and he had a kidney removed. And here we are in 2024. And he talks about the protocols he uses to maintain his health and well-being, despite the fact that cancer has come and gone several times in the last number of years. He calls it MEDS, which is an acronym for Mind, Exercise, Diet, and Support. Brian's going to talk about his own personal path to discovering some of these things that his doctors weren't telling him about, and how that has helped to enhance his life and kept him alive and vibrant for all these years. So let's jump in. This is Brian Holley. Let's just talk a little bit about the city that you're in, because before we talk about your book and cancer and all that stuff, I was intrigued by the fact that you're living in a one of the most sparsely populated areas of the UK. Tell us about it, because I think that's so cool.
The village itself is about 1,000 people, and we're 10 miles away from any other commercial centre. The community is wonderful. We're very much together. There's a lot going on. Very little traffic here. It's quite wonderful. The nearest motorway is about 20 or 30 miles away. So we're right here in the heart of England, almost archetypal kind of English country village. And a lot of the houses, as I said, are dated back to 1350. Some go through to 17th, 18th century. I live in a modern house. I don't live in an old house. They're too blooming expensive to maintain.
Sure.
But it's a gorgeous place. Right opposite me is a Norman castle built in the 11th century. So we have the remains of the earthworks there. So there's an awful lot of history here.
Yeah, and the name of the city is, say it again?
Well, the name of the city is Hereford.
Hereford, like the cow. You were saying that's where it came from. Okay.
And I live in a village called Webley, which is spelled Weobley. It's Weobley, which is a Saxon name, a clearing in the woods. So that goes a long way back to.
Wow. Yeah. When I think about what was going on back then, what people looked like, how they dressed, what was what was life like? It must be so here in the United States, it's still it's a new country relative to that part of the world, and a building from the 1300. We don't have that. And then we tear the stuff down that's actually got some history to it a lot of the times, and for modern looking stuff. And the thing about, to me, old buildings and that is that the history lives in those walls and you can feel things.
Yeah.
It's maybe a little esoteric, but I do think that, you have people that worked on these things, and their energy goes into building those things, and it still lives there. The artistry, the craftsmanship, the time, it's well, good for you for moving there. Must be very peaceful. So we're going to talk about your book, What My Doctors Didn't Tell Me About Cancer. First, a little history. Your first diagnosis was, I think, it was in 2009.
That's right.
Yeah. So that's already quite a while now. So, and it was kidney cancer, and you had a kidney removed, and then take us from there.
It was a great surprise and a shock, and it's quite a life. Well, I say quite a life. It is a life-changing experience. Suddenly, I was faced with the fact that I had to have this very enlarged cancerous tumor removed from my kidney area. People respond in different ways to that kind of situation, but I think there's a fairly common factor. Over the years, I've spoken to many people in that situation. And the first thing is one of feeling deep sorrow, disappointment. Maybe my body's let me down. The first thing I did was sit down in my little study here and put together a letter to my 4 children and told them how much I love them and asking them for the forgiveness for a lot of the silly things that I've done in the past, and sealed it up, and just in case I didn't make it through. But I did make it through. And within a few months, I was out and about and getting on with life. And the doctors had done a very, very good job. And I thought to myself, well, okay, we've got through that one. This is all right. Then suddenly, 2012, routine checkup. You've got another tumor. It's in the adrenal gland. So I had to go in a hospital again, this time 60 miles away to Birmingham, and have the adrenal gland removed. Again, I went through the whole process, recovery, etc. Felt fine. Okay, through it again. Didn't have any other treatment in between. 3 years later, cancer was back on the area where the kidney had been. And then 6 months later, they discovered a lot of little tumours in my lungs, metastatic kidney cancer. And I thought to myself, well, okay, this is it. It's spreading now all over my body. The chances of my making it for the next few years is probably not very good, although I never discussed that with my oncologist. I never felt it was fair to put on to a doctor, how long have I got to live? And I'm not sure that it's fair on patients for to say that either, because we don't know how long it's going to go. And I'm living proof of that. Because 9 years later, I'm still here, still carrying on, still not having treatment. And so that's the general outline of the whole process.
I had read in your bio that one of the cancers that you chose not to do chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about why, what you knew at that point as to why you didn't want to do that, and it's been successful that you haven't done that. So did you replace it with lifestyle changes? Let's talk about that.
The first thing I need to say is that this is not something that everybody should do or should consider. We are all individuals. We're all very different, and we have to find our own path through. My own particular path, I thought, well, I've had a pretty good life. I'm now into my 70s, and I don't feel, having researched the chemotherapy option, I don't feel that I want to spend the rest of the years of my life. And that's what my oncologist said when I asked him, how long will I need to be on chemo? He said, for the rest of your life. Okay, well, I would be uncomfortable, sick, probably from time to time, have diarrhea, the usual things, maybe other things. suppressed immune system, so I'd be in danger of catching various diseases, etc. And I thought, well, I would rather live a pretty fit life, which I was living. I could walk 4 or 5 miles, and I was all fit and healthy. I did not have any real pain or symptoms. I was very, very fortunate. And I thought, well, if I can stay like this as long as I can, that would be okay. So I decided not to follow the chemo route, but then to step up what I'd already been doing, which was to do with what eventually evolved into what I call my meds. That is to do with mind, exercise, diet, and support. And so I was already pretty fit physically. I'd been cycling most of my life, thousands of miles over my life, and that was good. I was walking a lot. We were on a reasonably good diet, but we stepped that up. We made it into a plant-based diet to a very large extent, and extended that to having organic food as far as is possible to be able to get it these days. I then moved on to support from various people in various ways. I consulted a nutritionist, and that was very important to me. A nutritionist referred me to a mycologist. The first thing that somebody said to me was, well, if you've got kidney cancer, you should be taking reishi and another mushroom. And I thought, well, okay, that's interesting, because a friend of mine in Vancouver had also mentioned exactly the same compounds. And so I started taking those. And gradually I've refined those over time, and I do take supplements, and I know why I'm taking them, and possibly what they're doing. And I tried withdrawing from them. I tried changing the levels of supplement that I'm taking, and experimented in different ways. And I've come to a situation where I feel pretty comfortable with what I got at the moment. So that is basically how I've been able to maintain it, and that is simply those 4 aspects of my living. The mind, that is things like meditative practices and contemplative practices and things of that sort. I've been very involved with that over many years. The exercise is important. The diet is important, and the support from family. I've got a very loving family, and they've been wonderful to me. And also the people who've been able to help me through various cancer charities, and from my doctors. Trying to hold together my doctors is as part of a team, not seeing them as the sole practitioner in this situation. At one time, one of my doctors said, well, look, you're not having any treatment, so what can I do? I said, but you're checking up on me all the time. You're the one who knows what's going on inside my body, and you're the one that can actually take action if I need it. If I do need chemotherapy, or if I do need radiography, and that may be a possibility coming up soon, then you're the one that will know when that's going to happen. But at the moment, it's not going to happen. It's not needed. But I am getting support from kinesiologists, acupuncturists, various other people who've helped me over the process of time. Having that team together of various experts who I can turn to and receive help and support, and also try it out with other people and experiment. And that's what's, I think, has probably been keeping me going now for 15 years.
I have so many questions. The doctors themselves, they've been supportive, or have some of them been like, I don't know what this other stuff you're doing is, and this is not what I was trained to do? Because, the title of your book is What My Doctors Didn't Tell Me About Cancer. They obviously didn't know to tell you some of these things. Did you get any resistance and have to change doctors, or have you been very fortunate in that they're open-minded enough to listen to the patient?
Well, that's a difficult one, because one of the downsides of living in a very sparsely populated area of the country is that we don't have the luxury of being able to go to an alternative doctor. I have what I have. And what I've tried to do is to very gently train him a bit certainly over the last 9 years. And I have received some resistance. I remember saying, well, the first thing I did was to cut right back on sugar, because I happen to know from a professor of oncology that sugar takes in 7 times more in cancerous cells than normal cells do. So the first thing we need to do is to reduce the amount of sugar, because otherwise we're just feeding our cancers. So when I said that to him, I said, I've cut right back on sugar. He said, oh, that won't make any difference. One of my GPs said the same sort of thing. He said, oh, well, just eat what you like. At your age, you'll be all right. I said, no, that's not right. That's not true. That's not. And so I've persisted, and I've constantly fed back the stuff to him and asked him to put it on record. So that I've taken records of my blood pressure, of my weight, and of the different supplements that I've been taking, and in what quantities and why. He doesn't argue with me. I think a lot of doctors end up by playing safe, and they will say, well, we don't know what the effect is going to be, and it could be dangerous if you're taking all this stuff, and it could affect the medication you're on. But I said, okay, but I'm not on any medication, so that's all right.
I would say, well, the medication might affect the healthy stuff I'm doing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Bobby. It's one of those things that very often the treatment is worse than leaving it untreated. I remember a friend of mine who'd been battling with cancer for years, and it was coming towards the end of his life. In fact, it was about a month before he died, and he was going through yet another bout of chemotherapy. And when he heard my story, he said, do you know, Brian, he said, I wish I hadn't followed that route. As I say, that's not for everybody. You have to make your own decision. So I'm not saying do this. But you reach a point when you have to say, well, enough is enough. And the amazing thing is that the body can do far more than we know. The immune system is fantastic. It's able to minutely tweak our systems in many, many ways, as long as we allow it to get on and do its job. And very often, I think that's the problem, is that we're there stuffing things into our bodies that are not helping the immune system. So we've got to give it every chance it has. But it's the immune system that's doing it, not me. I'm just there making sure that I'm not getting in the way.
That's profound, because, that is not the conventional type of thing that most medical doctors espouse or encourage. And sometimes they're even threatened by it. But it is, it's our body, your body. We can make those decisions. I always say there's nothing more dangerous than a professional.
And I've been a professional, so I know what you mean. Not a medical one, but
yeah, I get it. When you think and other people think you know more, maybe you don't. Let's talk about some of these supplements, because I'm fascinated, because you mentioned reishi, and I've only just discovered that recently in the last couple of years. I don't take it, but only because I just haven't done it. And I do take supplements, and I do try to lead a lifestyle that's similar to yours, in that I don't eat sugar, and I try to eat organic as much as possible, and I exercise, and I meditate. So I have a lot of those pieces in place. The reishi interests me because I'm hearing a lot of good things about it, and I haven't heard anything negative about it at all. What form do you take it in? How do you take it? What is that protocol for you?
Well, I started off by taking 2 500 milligram capsules a day, cut it back to 1. what I discovered was that one of the things that they are finding out about various supplements, and especially reishi, is that it does contain beta glucans. And beta glucans, and I'm not a medical man, so I can only report what people have said, but beta glucans are one of the big things that science is looking at in terms of dealing with cancer at the moment, because this can radically change the way in which our cells deal with my visitors, I call them. So as far as I'm aware, there are some good things going on in the supplements that I'm taking. They've all got a reason there. I've just recently listed them on my blog so that people can see where I'm at with each of the supplements that I'm taking.
Okay, great. What is the blog called?
brianscancerjourney.blogspot.com.
Yeah, I'd be curious to check that out, because it's pretty fascinating stuff. I mean, you do hear these stories about people being cancer-free by changing lifestyle, particularly diet.
Yes.
My take on it is there's some sort of a balance that is very helpful for most people, and that not everybody's the same. And so you kind of have to use your body as a test tube and experiment a little bit, which takes some time, and it takes a little bit of money, and it takes a little bit of, effort, a lot of effort, really. So it's not an easy thing. It'd be great to go, oh, I have this thing that's wrong with me. This is what you do. Well, it'd be great if it worked that way, but it doesn't. So, I applaud your efforts at experimenting with yourself.
I completely agree with you there, Bob, because the other aspect of that is that with allopathic medicine, it tends to happen quite quickly because it's very forceful and aggressive. And so you can affect quick results with some of the chemicals that they're pumping into us. Whereas with the supplements that are helping us to support our immune system and to develop it, it takes a lot longer. So we need to be patient and wait and see what happens. And I was taking a tablet called saw palmetto because I was like all old men like me, you get a enlarged prostate. So I started taking this in about August last year, and it took about 3 months. But then suddenly, from having to get up 3-4 times a night to have a pee, poddling off into the bathroom and thinking of, that's why the Scots call it the wee hours. and I thought, well, I've reached this point now where I've been taking it 3 months, and now I'm noticing a change. I'm only getting up once a night. So it does make a difference, and it makes a difference over a very long period of time. And sometimes you have to say, well, okay, no, this isn't making any difference at all. I'm taking it 6 months, and here we are. Okay, try a different tack. But we do have to experiment. My sister was a gerontologist in upstate New York, and one of her sayings says that we need to be our own self-advocates. We have to look into why we're taking what we're doing, what we're taking, why we're being given the medication that we're being given, why the doctors are doing it. We need to ask pertinent questions, but we also need to ask some impertinent questions too sometimes.
So what are some of the things, I guess we've sort of talked about them, but are there anything more specific about what the doctors didn't tell you about cancer, or what they might not know, in addition to what we've already talked about?
One of the things, of course, is what I'm discovering is that the doctors themselves are very much fixated on the physicality of the body. It's to do what can be touched and seen and manipulated and so forth. And they almost totally ignorant of what we might call the electromagnetic side of the energies that are going through the body. and totally and utterly in ignorance of anything to do with quantum. All of these strands running through us that affect the way in which our bodies respond. And what I'm very keen and very interested in at this time is about integrating the way in which we experience our whole being, both at the physical, electromechanical, and also at the atomic level. There's an awful lot going on there that we really don't know what's happening. I mean, there's this lovely experiment that the HeartMath Institute produced where they talked about loving kindness as being able to change the conformation of DNA. That was something that the scientists actually showed empirically. My sense is that we need to have this sense of presence within us that is aware of what is happening within our bodies in a way that allows it to happen, because I can't make it happen. I can't force it to happen by my mind or anything else. But what I can do is to allow it and to stop getting in the way of the mind particularly, and to allow my system to do what it needs to do and what it's capable of doing. I don't know quite how to express this. It's more of something called sense feeling within, so that I'm not rationalizing it out and putting it into formula and things of that sort. I'm just sitting and listening, spending a lot of time in silence and waiting for that sense feeling of, this is what it's at. And the more we can rest into that, the more we can find love as the main motivator within our lives, then the less we are striving to overcome, to fight, to try to be the warrior, which is one of the aspects of our culture. We still live in a warrior culture, and we are only just beginning to wake up to a very, very early dawn of understanding that the way in which we live as warriors and have done for thousands of years has been totally and utterly wrong. And this is why we're in all the problems that we're in now, both in terms of human interactions and also to do with the environment and so forth.
I was just thinking about the common phrase, fighting cancer. How that is actually not what you're talking about. You're not talking about fighting it. You're talking about acceptance and allowing the body to do what it needs to do to help, and to help the body to do that. But it isn't really a fight. And I never really understood that concept anyway of fighting a disease. You're not, it's figuring it out, what it's doing, and helping the body to help itself. It's not really a fight. It's sort of it's like what you're talking about. It's an understanding of something that you want to change. But when you think about fighting anything, both the thing you and the thing you're fighting both get hurt in a fight.
Yeah.
If I fight you, let's just physically, I fight you. I go, okay, I'm going to fight Brian. I'm going to punch him in the face. Well, now I'm hurt my hand. I've hurt my psyche. I've made my nervous system all jittery. This is just on my side. And now, and it also happens to you because you just got punched. I'm winning this fight, by the way, in this story.
Yeah, that's right. It's recognizing that when we use force, there is a contrariness that comes back, and whenever we use force, we just double the force. The force fights back at us, and I described it in my book as being like playing one-armed bandits against yourself. If you win, you lose.
Yeah. What is that? The third law of motion, where for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction. Isaac Newton, wasn't that him? I don't
One of
remember
the
everything.
laws of thermodynamics of some sort.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought it was motion, but maybe it's, I don't know. But who knows? It's a good law, though. It's
Yeah.
a good life rule. So
Yeah.
anything you do, there is going to be an equal and opposite reaction, for better or for worse, depending on what you do. So make your choices wisely, and not out of reactivity, out of response.
Yes.
The book is out now, right? It's published,
Yeah.
ready to go. What My Doctors Didn't Tell Me About Cancer, and by Brian Holley. So that can be had, I'm sure, on all the online outlets, Amazon, etc. And is, in addition to your blog, is there something else where people can go to find out more, or is that it?
Well, I think that's about it. I'm not very much into technology. I do a bit of Facebook with friends, etc. But I spent many years working in IT, and I've tended to avoid IT if I can ever since I retired, which was a very long time ago now.
Well, I don't. But you're 84 now, correct?
Yep.
Yeah. Congrats. I'm the same way. I don't love, particularly social media. I don't like it much, and I do this on the computer because I can reach all across the world to anybody. If they speak English, I can talk to them. So that's a good thing for me to get information out. But I don't spend much time doing that either. I find it a little bit nerve jangling. Let's put it that way. It kind of bothers me if I do it too much. Again, that's one of those things where if I'm silent and I really listen to what's going on, that stuff does not make me feel great. And is it helping people to be kinder, gentler, more compassionate? Kind of doubt it, but maybe this particular episode will. I don't know. That would be nice. Oh, I know what I wanted to ask you about, because I saw this in your bio. You're playing in a band?
I do. Yeah.
Well, tell me about that, because, you don't, are you rocking out? Are you like, or what kind of music is it?
Well, we started off as a bluegrass band about 12 years ago.
Really? An English bluegrass band?
An English bluegrass band. There's a lot of good bluegrass going on over here. But then we lost our banjo player. And so you can't really have a full-blown bluegrass band without a banjo player. So we changed it from picking in the kitchen to alive and picking. I'm the oldest one in the band. The rest are all in their 70s now. And we play guitars and bass, and we sing together. We do a lot of harmony. I play harmonica, and it's great fun. It really is. We thoroughly enjoy ourselves, and we only do it for charities. We've raised quite a lot of money for charities over the years.
Intrigued by that, because I played in bands for a long time when in my youth, quite a bit. I am also a harmonica player. That's what I play. And I played in blues bands primarily. So blues and blues rock, that's what I did. So it was a number of years there that was my lifestyle. And so I love music. I like all kinds of music, even polka.
I played in a barn dance band for 12 years.
Yeah, okay. Well, keep that up. I think that's great. And the charity work, see, that's another piece of healing, in my opinion, is service of any kind, no matter what form it takes. It gets you out of yourself, and it gets you into helping other people, which is very elevating, in my opinion. It helps me.
Absolutely. I feel that's a vital part of my support, quite apart from my support for other people. It works both ways.
To be perfectly honest, I never want to do it, and I always feel great when I do. So that selfish part of me goes, you don't want to do that. You want to do you. And then I do, and then I do it, and I go, boy, I feel a lot better.
Yes.
So the tricky little minds we have. I really appreciate your time, and what a pleasure to journey across the pond, as they say, and speak to someone, in another country who's, doing great things. And I hope you check out the book. It's a topic that I think we've become less afraid to talk about, and I'm happy to, participate in any way to do that. It used to be something that was like, shh, you don't want to talk about that. It's, you might catch it, even though it's not a catchable thing. It's something else.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. You have a beautiful evening. Much appreciation for you folks listening to The Exploding Human. The website is theexplodinghuman.com. There's a YouTube channel where you can listen. That is The Exploding Human with Bob Nickman. Once again, I want to thank Brian Holley for being on the show. Please check out the book and have a fantastic day. Thank you.